Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you my eyebrow routine. I'm going to speak about all the steps that I do, and hopefully you can pick up some tips and tricks to help you achieve a flawless and clean looking brow. So if you want to know how I do my eyebrows, then just keep on watching. So obviously you want to use the right product, and it does depend on your preference, how strong you like your brows, how soft you like them. And I like to use a powder because you can kind of go both ways. Sorry guys, my camera just stopped filming them, but basically what I was saying is I use a powder because you can go both ways with it. You can create a very soft look, as you can't really go wrong with powder. It's easily removed, but then you can also wet your brush and that makes the product a tiny bit darker as well. But it is a personal preference. So using a pen or a brush and angle that upwards from your nostril, that is where your brow should start. And then angle it through your pupil, so you can see here right the way across, still using your nose as a guideline. That's where your arch should be. And then angle it right to the end of your eye, and that's where your brow should end. Obviously you don't have to do this completely, but it's just a bit of a guideline. As my natural hair has quite a lot of ashy tones running through it, I'm using a very cool toned brown. This is Omega by MAC and a 266 brush. So what I do is I start by softly mapping out the front of the brow. So I just flick upwards to get a very soft look, and this just ensures you don't get a really harsh line at the front. And I always brush through my brows as well, because you can sort of see where you've got any sparse areas. So what I was saying earlier is you can wet your brush, and this just enables you to get more of a defined line because the product is that little bit more darker. So what I'm doing now is I am just creating very small strokes and flicking upwards just to sort of roughly map out the shape. And you always want your brows to be very gradual. You don't want there to be a really big jump. So what you can do is just sort of follow the front of the brow and sort of create a line connecting it to your tail. And for example, if I wanted more of a straighter brow, I would just bring it further down and more across, so sort of more of a straight line. And obviously if you wanted it more curved, you would bring it up higher. So the same goes with the arch of your brow. The higher the arch and the more pointed is obviously the more arched your brows will be. And then obviously if you create it more curved, your brows will be a lot more round. I like a very soft arch, obviously it is very optional as well. And then again, if you wanted more of a straight brow, flicking upwards from the bottom of your brow will it will have the most definition on the bottom part of your brow, because you don't want the front top bit to be too defined, because that's when it starts to look like very drawn on, as I was saying before. So you can see it's just the motion that I'm doing here I've got the most product on the bottom part of my brow and flicking upwards, and obviously that way you'll have the most definition on the bottom of the brow. So to really neaten the underneath of your brow, and if you feel like you go a little bit wrong, if you feel like you've gone too thick, you can use the same angled brush, just clean it off, and a concealer that's a little bit lighter, and go right the way under your brow. And you can see I'm really carving it out, and that just really neatens up the edge and just ensures you get a nice pointed edge. Obviously that is a personal preference. Sometimes I don't do this on a day-to-day. I just leave it looking a little bit kind of natural and kind of a little bit messy, but that's up to you. So for example, I felt like I went a little bit too thick on the edge of the brow or on the tail, so I just took the concealer and carved out that edge and just swiped it across, and that literally just erases it. And then just blend it out with your finger, and that naturally highlights the under part of your brow. So you can see here, I'm just making the front of my brow a little bit thicker and slightly more defined. I was going out, so I did want my brows to be a little bit more defined and more bold. And you can see here, I'm doing that motion again, I'm flicking upwards. So you can see the underneath is the most defined, but I'm not doing a line on top because I don't want it to look square. Sorry if you like square brows, but it's just not really my thing, and that just prevents it from happening. And then always go in with your brush, because then you can soften it if you feel like you've gone a little bit too harsh. So you can still kind of see my natural brow hairs, but the underneath is just nice and defined. So using a sponge, or you can use your foundation brush, and I'm just dabbing that right on the front of the brow, and that just softens it ever so slightly. Then that also helps you get that nice gradient looking brow as well. So this step is optional, but you can go in with a brow gel brow mascara. So this one is slightly tinted, and this just makes your brows look that little bit fuller because it picks up every single brow hair, and it just sort of makes them look a little bit more 3D, especially if you don't have a lot of brow. And if you have naturally full brows and you don't want to use any product through them whatsoever, you could just use a brow mascara and you're good to go. So I'm just going to run through my second brow with you really quickly, just because I really want you guys to kind of get an idea of sort of the tips and tricks that I do, because it's really hard for me to tell you every single thing that you can do with your brows, because everyone's brows are different. So obviously hope you can follow my steps and get a few ideas of what you can do as well. So again, I'm doing that same thing by flicking upwards at the front of the brow, brushing it through. So I do this step a couple times until I'm happy with the thickness and the definition. And then again, following the front of my brow, I bring it straight across to make my brows look a little bit straighter, and I sort of fill in that gap there. As you can see, it's a little bit sparse, and that just neatens it up. So I just follow the natural shape and bring it right the way across. And another great way of sort of helping you map out your shape is brushing your brow hairs down, and then you can sort of get an idea of where to follow, because if your brow hairs are sort of all over the place, you might sort of go a little bit too far up once you brush them all the way across, and then you'll have to erase it and you go a little bit thicker than you might like. So you can see I'm just following that natural shape that I have already. And again, you can bring that arch up a little bit higher, or you can make it more curved, like I said, if you wanted more of a rounder. So I see this a lot with some brows where you've got a nice high arch, and then from that arch it's a little bit too curved, and that's basically when you can't quite get the angle right. So sort of tilt your head slightly, like you can see I'm doing now, and from that very point bring it all the way down. So don't curve your brush, just bring it down in a straight line. And you can see I'm always going very slowly in small little strokes right at the bottom of the brow, just to always ensure they're really nice and defined. And again, just cleaning up with that same concealer all the way across, just in case I've gone a little bit too messy, and just to define it slightly. So that is my finished brow routine, guys. I really hope you found it helpful and you took something away from it. Please feel free to leave me any questions down below about your own brows and I'll get back to you. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!